want to show you a really nice technique that you can use to create an atmospheric watercolour landscape, and just using two really simple steps. I'm going to work on a piece of 9 by 12 cold press paper made by Meaden. I'm going to start by wetting it all over. With the mist bottle, I'm not going to bother using a brush or anything like that, but squirt quite a bit of water on there, and then I just use my hand to knock out any big drips, and making sure that it's fully covered. So I want to bring over a big wet in wet wash over the whole sheet and get probably sort of 75% of the painting done in one stage. And so I'll be painting all the light, all the atmosphere in this first stage. So the paper's quite wet. I want the paint to move around a fair bit. And now I'm going to use a mop brush and pick up some raw sienna and lay that in, and I'll start working on the sky and the land. I'll lay it all down in one go. So like I said, it's quite wet, so you can see that runs already starting to happen on there. And I've put some alizarin into that. So mix some alizarin into the raw sienna. Touch a tiny little bit of cobalt blue in there as well. And so laying in all the lightest elements in the sky and the land. Be very loose with it. So laid in a little bit more cobalt blue, a little bit more alizarin. So slightly darker now. So I'm getting the sort of mid-tones in the sky now. Now I'm not working from any reference photo as such. It's kind of a similar sky to a painting I did the other day. If you want to see that, then follow me over on Instagram. It's over on there. So building up these layers, I'll have the horizon fairly low in this one. I can drag some of this colour down into the land now as well. So laying this painting fairly wet, or very wet really at this stage, and it's all starting to run down, but now I can mix up some darker paint. So I pick up some ultramarine, touch a bit of alizarin into that. So it's a very dark blue now. And I can get the darker elements in the sky. Working quite quickly, so I don't want the paint to dry out too much. I want this sky to be very soft, but still very atmospheric. So bringing in some cloud shapes, very dark clouds. Now I want to make sure it's a little bit lighter on the left hand side, because I'm going to have some dark trees that I'm going to put in the second stage. And but very important is that I've left some white areas in the sky. That's where all the light's going to come from. All the atmosphere comes from leaving some white of the paper behind. So now I've just touched some raw sienna, mixed it in with that blue and everything in the palette there, and drag some of that in across the land. So it's all still within this first wash. Slightly thicker paint now as well. A little bit of alizarin in there as well. Pretty much all the same colours that I've used in the sky I can lay down into the land. A little bit of that ultramarine as well, mix that in there. And now all these marks are all going to soften. But it's nice to get the majority of the painting done in this first wash, and then I can tie it all together with some dark shapes. So I'm going to allow this wash to fully dry. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I want to very briefly talk about the paper that I'm using at the moment, and it's Meaden watercolour paper. It's 100% cotton, and it comes in these pre-cut handy little blocks, and it's gummed around the outside, so there's no need to stretch your paper or anything like that, and it won't buckle when wet. And it comes in lots of different sizes. I've got the 20 by 15, I've got a 16 by 12, 15 by 11, 12 by 9 inch, and also I've got this little 7 by 10, and it's got 3 different textures of paper, so rough, cold press and hot press, and that's all in one convenient little block there, which is quite a nice thing to have. If you haven't tried out different textures of paper, it's quite a nice little thing to get. Now if you have a look in the description of this video, there's a link and a discount code, and so if you go over to Mead and Art Supplies, you can get, I think it's 12% off, so go and check that out. Okay, it's completely dry, so now comes the second stage where I pull it all together and turn it into hopefully a convincing landscape. So I've got some ultramarine and adding some raw sienna into it, just a touch, and I can bring in some distance. So very simply lay that in, give it a tiny little mist with the bottle so I get a few soft edges appearing. Now continue that shape out, soften a few areas across the top as well as I go. And have that getting very light out towards the right hand side. Now I'll swap to a larger brush, and I picked up some ultramarine and some burnt sienna into that to make a dark. Now I'm not rolling the brush to make a point, I'm allowing the brush to slightly fan out so I get these little broken edges, and I want the silhouette of a tree line against the light of that sky, and by getting that really strong dark in there it really accentuates the light. Give that a tiny little mist as well as I go. Now again, not rolling the brush to bring the bristles together for a point, allowing it to stay slightly fanned out so I get all these little textural marks happening. Just touch a little bit more burnt sienna in there, a little bit more blue, vary the colour ever so slightly. Now I'm using a very light touch with this brush. I don't want to be too heavy-handed, and so I'm getting those little bits of dry brush happening, and thousands of little marks really that are quite difficult to make if I was really thinking about it, but allowing the brush to do all the work, these things happen on their own. A bit more blue, more burnt sienna again. Varied the colour slightly, ever so slightly more on the brown side, and bring in a few little tree trunks in there. All suggestions really, nothing too stated. And I think this contrast between hard edges, little broken edges, little bits of dry brush, little bits of lost and found, and then all the softness and the light in that sky really makes for quite a dramatic painting. So again, very light touch as I'm adding little bits of texture in the land. Now I'm working very quickly. If you're going to paint along with this, maybe take a bit more care. You could get a nicer convincing tree shape if you wanted. I'm just going to rush through this just to give you an idea of what you can do. But still, working this quickly, you can get quite a convincing dramatic effect by having all that light and the soft edges in the sky and the land, and then adding these dark shapes over the top of it. Now I'll switch to a smaller brush, but still same mixture for the dark, so ultramarine and burnt sienna. Let's touch a little bit of cobalt in this time as well. And let's add some little broken fence posts. It's a nice way of connecting the land into the sky on the right hand side there as well. Have the fence posts going up above the horizon. So another little post I think over there on the left hand side. Just a suggestion. Now, I haven't got much water in the brush at all, so I'm getting that dry brush effect. Now let's go back into that raw sienna and brown mixture as well and build up some little layers on this left hand side. So maybe these trees are casting a little bit of a shadow over that area. But again, everything really suggested, not stated too much. Now let's mix up some really strong dark. Now it's almost black with burnt sienna and ultramarine, and let's get some real strong textural areas in this land. And now I haven't really painted trees as such, it's all shapes and dark shapes and marks all connected together to create the illusion of detail. And so now at this stage I'm having a little look, seeing if I need to add any more paint for a little bit of balance. I think I need to be slightly darker in this bottom left corner. It's quite dark in the top right, so I always think if it's dark in one corner, then mirror that in the opposite corner. So dragging up a few vertical marks there, a few little bits of grass down in the foreground. I'll pick up a little bit of plastic card now and scratch out some highlights, one or two in the trees. Again, suggestions, nothing too stated. A few little highlights on the land as well. Break up some of these dark shapes with a little highlight here and there. But as always, not too much, less is more. I'll take a step back and see if there's anything that needs to be done. Okay, that's the finished painting. So it's two very simple stages. Paint the light and the sky and keep that very soft, very atmospheric. Bring that wash down into the land as well using the same colours, and then you can dry that wash completely, and then all you really need to do to bring it together is add some dark hard shapes over the top of that, and it really brings out the light. The contrast between the dark trees and the light in the sky really adds a sense of drama and atmosphere. And you can do that with pretty much any subject, and you can't really go too far wrong. So give this technique a go. Let me know if you've got any questions, or let me know how you get on. If you post any of my demos that you've worked from on social media, then do please tag me in it. I always like to see what people have done. But anyway, that's the demo done. So I'll be back again next week. So have a great week, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.